Welcome back to WCS America Challenger. We're about to hop into Hyun versus Jig, game number 1, as they have just finished up their V2s and are choosing the maps and the map order. So it looks like we're going to be starting things off on Frost for game number 1. So Frost, a nice, fun and balanced and large map for ZVZ.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be ZVZ, right? I mean,
it is going to be ZVZ.
That's what it comes down to. On a map like Frost, with a third base being just jutted out in the open, it normally means we're going to see a lot of roach play. I mean, it is, I would say, common to go to mutas as well, but I feel like a lot of players these days just have been shying away from mutas just because it's so dull, right? I shouldn't say dull, but it can get to a situation where it's like, okay, who has more mutas?
Yeah, I have a lot of mutas.
Yeah.
You have a lot of mutas. I don't know who has more mutas, so we're just going to fly around each other.
Yeah. A lot of times it gets to like this mutual respect where it's like, I'm going to go roaches. Hey, you go roaches too. We can branch off. You can go hydras. You can go infestors, whatever you want to do. But let's stick on this. It's almost like swarm hosts in ZVP. Yeah. It's like, hey, I could go swarm hosts. I could.
I feel like ZVZ's gotten a little bit crazy these days, as players are still not afraid to play hatchery first, for instance, but aggression in the early game is so common now. I think at every level. I've certainly seen a lot of it on the ladder, and I find that I'm having more success when I do something aggressive in the early game than when I don't, because it's a hell of a lot easier to attack than it is to defend.
I think people have been using that 530 metabolic boost timing a lot more these days. That's when you go like pool hatch, and you actually go pool gas hatch, but it looks like a pool hatch, like a 14-15. So it's really, really scary, and a lot of times at the 530 mark, actually maybe 90% of the time, you will not have banelings or a baneling nest or even, static defense up. So you just chuck in there with a ton of Zerglings, you're able to do a lot of damage. That's been really, really common as well. We've been seeing these pre-timings a lot of times. And that's why I think macro play, it's becoming a much, much larger variance type of style if you want to do that in ZVZ, and especially on a map like Frost, where you can be punished pretty hard in the early game. We'll find out.
Yep. Jig versus Hyun. I'm really excited to see how this plays out. Jig is somebody who maybe has some eyes on him. He's one of these newer names, newer faces that people aren't...
I personally don't know a lot about him, but do you?
No, I don't. We're going to find out as much as we can here, as game number 1 is going to be starting up in just a second. Players just getting their team colors in order, and hopefully that will be all that is needed.
Ben, what are you doing these days in ZVZ?
I'm playing a lot of heavy Ling Baneling commitment off of 1 or 2 bases. Like I really like what Target used to do, and maybe still does, where you get 1.5 bases of saturation and then make a very large attack with Zergling
like
Baneling.
18 Banelings or something, right?
And then either win or transition off of that. And I was actually watching a lot of the Chinese replays from their own qualifier, and they play so Zergling Baneling centric in both ZVZ and in ZVT, and it really kind of changed the way I think about both matchups. Let's go ahead and hop into game number 1 between Jig and Hyun, and it's just I've sort of realized, and maybe this is a silly thing to realize after playing StarCraft for 4 years, that always sitting back and playing reactively and droning up isn't necessarily the best way to play. It's very good to take some initiative and to force your opponent to react to you sometimes, even if classical logic is if you want to be a good player, you just sit back and you drone and you play and you're greedy and you take advantage of your opponent's mistakes.
Ben, the old me would have disagreed highly with you. Okay, and by the old me I mean like a month ago. I've been like, no, Ben, you're pretty dumb. And I felt like before I was very idealistic, but I think I've changed a lot, especially since talking to WSOP winner. I've changed a lot and found out that it's not good to be idealistic. You have to really keep in mind that
changing
there is
my entire
there's
Andre
a human element
definition. Like this is like
to everything, and you want to incur mistakes as much as possible.
If anyone ever asked me to define Andre in one word, I would say idealist.
I know. I'm no longer like that, and this is what I love: spawning pool super early.
Yeah. So really quickly, we've got Hyun, the Red Zerg player. He spawned here in the top right-hand corner of the map. Finished up last season's WCS at the rank of 23, and his opponent Jig, who is in fact getting very aggressive in the early game, has that early pull down and is making 6 lings. He's up here in the top left-hand side of the map. And this is an interesting take on it. He's going to probably make 6 to 8 lings and then transition. And we know this because he has made those extra drones and because he hasn't taken any gases. There's no real follow-up to the all-in, where there's the queen going down, so he's probably going to start droning after this last set of lings comes out. No, he's going to make a couple more.
Couple more, just keeping the pressure on. I guess 10 lings seems pretty reasonable as well.
And Hyun is not going to see this for a long time.
He's splitting the Zerglings up, though. He doesn't know exactly where his opponent is. He hasn't seen the Overlords come across. Really unfortunate. But
oh, no.
Oh.
Something has made Jig feel like Hyun is in the bottom right because he hasn't spotted an Overlord is what it is. And
what that
he's not
does...
going to spot an Overlord.
Does he... Wow, so close.
Hyun, why did you send your Overlord on this kind of a path? I'm so perplexed. Could he have possibly thought to send it in a way that the other Overlord wouldn't see it? I have no idea.
No, he's going for the expansion.
Right, but usually you send it to the ramp, right?
The Overlord?
Yeah, that's what I do.
It's probably not safe.
Either way, lings will finally make their way into the natural expansion of Hyun, where they're going to see drones hatching. So Hyun, with only 2 lings out, is going to be forced to defend a little bit, but a player of his caliber should not have too many issues microing against Zerglings with Zerglings drones and soon to be a queen.
But you can see the great positioning of the spawning pool. That's what's really coming into effect right there, because he can't really drill in. Drone does go down. That's going to help out. Now he's going to put damage onto the hatchery, trying to make it something to really contest. But a queen is out. That should really solidify the advantage. Excuse me, the advantage for Hyun.
And this is going to be a very difficult game for Jig from this point on, opting for the early aggression, misreading his opponent's spawn position, and now finding himself down a base. And, well, that's not a good place to be against a player like Hyun.
What's winning right now is that Overlord that went over to the natural base. You can see there is no hatchery that is seen by Hyun. Of course, it's not going to be a proxy hatch. I mean, it could be, but that would be highly inefficient. So he knows there's some sort of Zergling, Baneling, any combination of that Speedling type of all-in on the way. And that's why we don't see a gas. It would be incorrect to go gas. Just get a lot of queens, make sure you can defend, get Zerglings, spine crawlers up, block your ramp, and play super safe. Because you know you will have the economic advantage no matter what, since there's no upcoming hatchery.
This is such a smart follow-up from Hyun. The extra queens are going to make it impossible for lings to run past. I think maybe it would be good to get another spine crawler or 2, but instead Hyun's going to go super greedy mode. He's up to 28 drones against 17.
It's insane.
And I could honestly see this backfiring badly as ling speed's going to finish up. Hyun's lings are out on the map. They're all going to go down. And now he's going to be forced to defend with just queens, and look at that. There's the brilliance of Hyun. He's going to make a full wall off with his Evo chambers, and this is going to be hard to break for Jig. He's going to have 2 layers of wall here, and even if Banelings come crashing into this, I don't think he's going to have much luck.
There's still transfuse that he can use.
Yep. And
there it is.
Hyun is going to shut that down handily, and even canceling those extra Evo chambers behind the wall. Droning behind this, Hyun finally going to make a couple of Zerglings of his own. This is a fantastic position to be in if you're Hyun, a very difficult one if you're Jig. He's down 17 drones against 26. Now, the good news for Jig is that Hyun ain't going to be attacking him for a little while.
No.
He's kind of stuck behind this wall.
Bad news for Jig is that Roach all-ins, Muta all-ins, they could both just win the game.
Yeah.
Right, he's just so far ahead in economy income tab, 27 to 21. But most importantly, he knows he's 100% safe. He can get both or all 4 gases whenever he wants to. Whereas the other hatchery from Jig, it's still building right now. It's only 60% of the way done.
Yeah, Hyun's going to get further and further ahead here. He's up 9 drones right now. He's continuing to produce drones off of 2 hatcheries, off of his superior 35 drone economy. So he's going to have 2 completely saturated bases. I'm wondering when we're going to see upgrades start for Hyun. He's only started mining gas just a short while ago.
Think it's going to be roaches, or you think it's going to be...
I'm not sure what I think. I know what I would do, and what I would do is probably wrong, but I would upgrade armor and melee and continue down a Zergling path. It looks like Hyun's going to go for roaches, as he's going to go ahead and start that +1 ranged attack upgrade.
That's fine, too, obviously. He's going to go for roaches, speed roaches, which I think if you're ahead, speed roaches will maintain you being ahead, because what can your opponent do? It's only going to be roaches, or it could be spine crawler zergling, and you know they're so far behind in tech, they're so far behind that second hatchery, that you're going to be able to get the third base and react to any sort of mutas that are on the field. By that time, you can get hydras out, you can get infestors out. The world is your oyster, Ben.
30 drones to 51. Jig's still playing catch up. It's not going to be. It's going to be a while before he is actually back in this thing. I kind of think the best way for Jig to get back in this thing. I don't know if there is a best way for Jig to get back in this thing. I'm trying to come up with one, but
yeah, it's getting pretty hard. I mean, this 1-1 timing is looking so fierce. And it's mainly because
it's not going to work.
The economy. Income tab 50 to 36. Holy guacamole. That is a large advantage, Ben.
Sure is. Now, the good news for Jig is that he does have some tech going down behind this. His upgrades are not way off of Hyun's. So
no lair, though.
Yeah, no lair. He's not going to have roach speed. But he's got defensive tools. In theory, he could hold the first attack.
Mm-hmm. Definitely so. But as time goes on, obviously, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. Oh. Okay.
At least he sees. And all that amount of larva all at one time means that it's not drones, guys. Because you make drones as soon as the larva comes off the hatchery. It means it's roach timing time. So Jig knows what's up, and he's going to immediately start making roaches of his own. He might even behoove him to throw down some spine crawlers, and he is going to do that as well. Oh, Jig, this is never going to work.
Yeah, that is dead. But I guess he's thinking he has to do something like this. Third base going to go down for Hyun as well. Really, it's unfortunate because ZVZ, it is unforgiving if you're behind.
Yeah.
Right? It's so easy to snowball and just win the game. Unlike, TVT or even to an extent PvP, although PvP I think is very unforgiving too. And I think Hyun just pushes, or he could even go for the max. Because no matter whatever race he wants to do, he's going to win. If he pushes right now, he's still going to be advantaged because he has that glue reconstitution. If he just waits for 200-200, he's still going to win because he hits 200-200 faster.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Tough spot. Jig knows that his best chance is probably to counterattack, and so that's why he's keeping these lings alive and not just sacrificing them carelessly. Might even be able to do something about this building base. No, Hyun's too close by. And maybe his roach speed's already done. I can't tell. But it is, in fact, already done. So
looks like he's going to go pretty soon right now.
Yeah, a really hard spot for Jig. He's down about 10 roaches. He does have some ling advantage, but, man, it's just perhaps an inevitable situation. Hyun might even be smarter just to max out and then attack.
I think so. He is looking for this timing, though. Like, he hasn't gotten for 2-2, so he is looking to push out pretty soon here. Doesn't want things getting out of control, which they will never get out of control. Glue reconstitution, or I should say lair, not even finished right now for Jig. And life is hard. Life is definitely very hard.
Lair hasn't even started for Jig. He's going to try and do something about this army, meeting it in the middle with lings and roaches. It's about as good of an attack as Jig's going to get, but he's obviously in no position to stand up against a Farley superiorly.
No, Farley was correct. I'm going to go with it.
A fat comedian.
Farley.
Yeah,
I mean, let's be honest. The beginning, that's really where Jig kind of messed up. I mean, from there, he's attacking in cross position. It's not in cross position. And from there, I think Hyun just gets Farley ahead.
I love that you just look me in the eye, just completely straight. Yeah, Farley's correct.
Farley is correct.
Yeah, well.
I'm going with you, Ben. Okay?
We're going to be back shortly.
We're battle buddies.
But a lot of StarCraft to come. I'm trying to work Farley in there. But it's not going to happen.
I can tell exactly what you're doing, man. All right,
we're going to take a break. We'll be back with game number 2.